Hey guys, this is Jan for Chess24. This video we're gonna take a look at the World Champions game, Magnus-Carlsen with black against Vasil Ivanchuk. Starting to feel a bit like Groundhog Day, but Magnus-Carlsen has won 6 games in a row, so we have to find out if he manages to make it 7 with the black pieces against Ivanchuk. His streak has inspired our designers to come up with beautiful graphics like this one, Magnificent 6. He's not at 7 yet. We'll see if he gets there. But what might mean more to him even is the tournament. So let's have a look at the standings after 9 rounds. Magnus-Carlsen on 7 out of 9, while Vasil Ivanchuk is on 5.5 out of 9. Also a very good score, but has not done well over the last couple rounds. Let's see how the game went. Carlsen with black faces the move 1d4, which has been giving him some problems recently. In the first rounds he tried his luck with d6 and g6 with flank openings, but ended up in pretty terrible positions against Radek Wojtaszek and Anish Giri. So today he decides to play a bit more mainstream once again. He goes for d4, knight f6, c4, e6, arguably his main setup, knight f3. He reaches a position which has been giving him quite a bit of trouble in the match against Vishy Anand, where he could not equalize with d5, could not equalize with b6, couldn't equalize anywhere. Today he plays d5, the Queen's Gambit, the most classical line there is. Knight to c3, and the move bishop to b4, which quietly, this move which I always struggle to know the name, I believe Ragozin is what they call it, I'm not 100% sure. But quietly, this move 4 bishop b4 has become the weapon of choice amongst the world's very best players. Magnus Carlsen uses it regularly now. Vishy Anand uses it a lot. Vladimir Kramnik plays it. Levan Aronian plays it. Played it in this very tournament in Wijk 2015 against Magnus Carlsen. Went on to lose the game with black though after c takes d5, e takes d, bishop g5, h6, bishop takes, queen a4 check, knight c6, e3, and Carlsen went on to win a very nice, very instructive game against Levan Aronian in this line. Today he chooses the same line with black, and Ivanchuk goes for a different setup. He plays the move bishop to g5, arguably even more solid than including cd, ed, and then playing bishop g5. And by going bishop g5, White signals his intention that after h6 he's going to take on f6. In this position, having not exchanged those pawns, bishop h4 is actually a mistake, I believe, because it allows d takes c4. Black gets a pretty good position. So White takes on f6, queen takes f6. This is very theoretical stuff. White gives up his bishop. Black has to misplace his queen and lose a bit of time. It has all been seen quite a bit before. e3 castles, and Ivanchuk chooses the most solid move, the move rook to c1. Protecting this knight on c3 and just making a useful waiting move, because black is going to take on c4 and then follow with c5 as these many arrows indicate anyway. So it would be a mistake to play a move like bishop e2, since then after d takes c, bishop c4, c5, we would get the same position we get in the game, but with the rook on a1 instead of c1, which is obviously not an improvement. So rook c1, good move, d takes c, bishop takes c4, c5, all of this theory. Black tries to solve his problems of this backward c-pawn. White castles, c takes d4, and we've reached the first tabia, or the first point where White has serious alternatives. Ivanchuk goes for the most solid one, the move knight takes d4. In this very tournament, we've seen the move knight e4, which is considered the most critical at the highest level right now. Wesley So played it against Hu Yifan, the women's world champion. After queen e7, knight takes d4, we've seen some fascinating battles in this position, which might not look like much since the pawn structure is symmetrical, but there is quite some differences in the piece setup. Black has to solve this problem of getting this knight out. We'll see something similar in the game. So normally they go bishop d7 to recapture with a bishop on c6 after knight c6. White goes queen h5, knight c6, and here knight b3. This is a very hot theoretical position at the moment. It was seen between Aronian and Anand. It was seen between Wesley So and Hu Yifan. Would have been very interesting to see what Magnus Carlsen had in store here, but it did not happen today. C takes d4. The other alternative is e takes d4, playing with an isolated pawn, which is considered to be fine for black as far as I know. At the moment, rook d8, knight to c6, everything is supposed to be alright for black here. So knight takes d4, very solid move, and once again, black faces the problem of how to develop his queen side, and he goes for the idea I already mentioned, bishop to d7, planning to go knight to c6. Now, white plays the move queen to b3. By the way, transposing to the line I just mentioned with knight e4 might still be possible, but probably you want to start with knight e4 in order to get this position, because here black could think about deviating with a move like queen to e5 instead of queen to e7. Ivanchuk has no such intentions. He plays queen to b3, which looks like a very good move, and it certainly is a very, very solid move. It attacks this bishop on b4. If the bishop goes anywhere, the pawn on b7 would be on prise. So at first sight, it looks like black has some problems, because if you take on c3 here, white goes rook takes c3, this pawn is still under attack, and after let's say b6, white would be seriously better because black did not manage to conclude his development. Bishop b5, for example, this knight will have a hard time entering the game. However, there is a solution after queen b3, which I believe Magnus Carlsen was aware of. I'm not sure he was happy about it. Let's have a look at the game and the players thinking about it. Queen to b3, here we get Carlsen writing it down. He leans back, looks into the air. Not sure if he's unhappy or what he's thinking about. My best guess is both players were pretty familiar with this position. The solution is the move knight to c6. This is an important move order device. If white takes on c6, now the bishop is hanging on b4 once again. So now you go bishop takes c3. And now if white recaptures, rook takes c3, black goes bishop takes c6, and he solved all his problems. The pawn b7 is defended, the bishop is developed, the position is pretty much symmetrical, and it is also very, very drawish. This is actually what happened in the game, and it did not last much longer. Ivanchuk went bishop b5, did not waste time challenging this very well-placed bishop on c6. Carlsen played bishop d5. Ivanchuk went back, Carlsen went back, Ivanchuk went back, Carlsen went back, and you get the idea. They repeated the position 3 times, and a draw was agreed. Not the most exciting of games, and there is really not much either side could do after queen b3, knight c6. Knight takes c6, bishop takes c3. White could try a move like queen takes b7, but this also leads to a dead equal position, takes, and we have opposite color bishops with equal pawns and an equal pawn structure. Just a draw. Same thing about queen takes c3, when black has to be careful not to go queen takes c3, which would lose a piece after this nasty intermediate check, but instead black would just go bishop takes c6. This ending is totally equal as well. So a bit of an anticlimax there, a very quick draw in the game, Ivanchuk-Carlsen. I've still managed to talk about it quite a bit. Let's see if the world champion can sum it up a bit more quickly than
he chickened out.
He just forced the draw, so
yeah.
he's. I mean, that's. He's allowed to do that.
Yeah.
So
Well,
there's just nothing I can do. I mean, this is. It takes. I mean, I can swap the bishops here, but it's only going to be.
Was it a scenario you could imagine that he would?
That was Magnus Carlsen in the press conference. Fascinating interview. By all means, check it out. It is on Chess24 on live stream on a lot of sources. I'm sure you can find it. So that means Magnus Carlsen did not manage to match Fabiano Caruana's streak. Caruana famously won 7 games in a row in the Sinquefield Cup. Magnus Carlsen only wins 6, but he stays in the lead in Wijk, looks poised to win this super tournament and re-establish his complete domination of the chess world, which some of us dared to doubt a little bit after Caruana did what he did in St. Louis in the Sinquefield Cup last year. That was the very quick game. Magnus Carlsen with the black pieces against Vasil Ivanchuk from the 10th round of the Wijk Super Tournament. I'll see you guys back here, and I promise the next game is gonna be even longer. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.